Good morning and welcome to Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call special comment today regarding Korea. The Korean War has been raging for more than half a century. And apart from the bloodshed, the destruction, the acrimony, and the tension that has generated all over the globe, but especially in the Korean Peninsula, Japan, and in fact in East Asia, has been tremendous. A few hours now, the world is looking with bated breath, looking at the upcoming summit between President Trump and the leader of the North Korea, Kim. This is possibly the first time that the two stalwarts are meeting, but there are clouds on the horizon. Nobody can deny the sincerity and the honesty of Trump and the straightforwardness. Right or wrong, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the authenticity, the honesty, and the sincerity of the guy as far as his commitment is concerned. The man who talked of the fire and fury, the man who talked of the bigger button, is today willing to go all the way, travel 20 hours from Canada to Singapore to talk to Kim. And the purpose? Peace. It's a mission of peace that is set. Would he be able to ensure that the world's most heavily armed border is no longer heavily armed? Would he be able to finally end the 68-year-old Korean War? Amazed? Yes, Korean War is still on. Technically, it is on, it's going on. There has been an armistice, but there has been no peace treaty. The point is, would it really happen? The political pundits and the junkies have been saying millions of things, but I don't believe those Cassandras. It's quite possible that the complete decolonization may not take place in a single summit. But if peace deal is there, then it can be a major step towards complete denuclearization. Personally, I also say, why denuclearization until all other countries are denuclearized, but then again, that's a separate matter. Now, can it really happen? So let's look at the facts. Kim is pursuing a long-sought North Korean demand for a treaty. And the purpose of the treaty is to get the US borders away from Korean Peninsula and eventually pave the way for a North Korean dominated Korea. Let's be very clear. He is clear that the US troops should leave Korean Peninsula. North and South Korea should combine, and it should be led by North Korean concepts. Beyond this speculation over the motivation, Trump and Kim face huge obstacles. And they are facing obstacles not because of their own, but because of the historical factors and also because of the haze being created by the political junkies. As a matter of fact, a look at what the final piece to 20th century's bloodiest war might happen is quite on the horizon, and it might happen on Tuesday. The Japanese-controlled Korea was divided in 1945 at the end of Second World War. US supported South Korea and North Korea was supported by Russia. 3 years passed and North and South Korea became sovereign nations. And 2 years after that, North attacked South Korea. The purpose was to unify both with the show of force. 3 years of bloody war, unending bloodshed ended on July 27, 1953. But that war technically continues today because of the difficult to negotiate the peace treaty. Military officers of the US-led United Nations, North Korea, and China signed an armistice and halted the fighting, but did not stop the war. South Korean President Syngman Rhee, one of the most corrupt leaders, wanted to fight till the North was corrupt. The North was crushed, and he refused to sign, but still it was signed. Now you can understand the tension that has simmered since 1953. The armistice was signed near DMZ, the demilitarized zone, and that is still today the place of tension dividing both the countries. North and South Korean soldiers look at across each other, the line where Kim Jong-un met Moon, the South Korean president, recently. Now the point is, will Trump and Kim do the peace talk? Trump seems to want to, and he said after meeting North Korean envoy earlier this month, we talked about ending the war. It has got to be the longest war, almost 70 years. There's a possibility of doing something like that. And when he was boarding his plane, he said it's peace mission. The other major player, South Korean President Moon, has made engaging the North a cornerstone of his political career. He is standing or falling by it. And he has the fulcrum on much of the recent diplomacy where Trump-Kim meeting is taking place. He doesn't want any credit, but he wants Koreans to live in peace. It's a major, major noble aim. The third player, Kim, his motivation is twofold. One, getting US troops. There are 28,500 US troops and Korean men. He wants to get them out of South Korea. And that's the first step to paving the way for a single Korea. Kim hopes to rule the whole of it, but in the short term, he's also willing to sign a treaty with the safety assurances for the preservation of North Korea, because that will protect the family. And the ensuring the recognition of a normal country would allow removal of sanctions, relief, economic assistance. As Trump has said, it will become a very rich country. So if all the three partners want it, then what is stopping them? First, what is stopping them is the historical background. People learn nothing from history. Ultimately, you've got to live in peace. France and England were at war for thousands of years, then they lived in peace. Germany and allies had, including US, had 2 world wars and then still living in peace. So why not here? As a matter of fact, Trump and Kim could announce a peace treaty, something that was mentioned in 2005 nuclear deals that US had with North Korea at that time. And it's quite possible, as per the latest dispatch, that the South Korean President Moon might travel to Singapore to be on hand in case Trump and Kim agrees to sign the deal on behalf of South Korea. Beijing is already for a peace agreement, and they have come down very hard on North. They have applied the sanctions decided by USA. And if North Korea refuses to abandon their nuclear arms, despite US offers of peace, security, guarantees, diplomatic recognition, and economic assistance, you can be sure that China is not going to support North Korea. But essentially, the summit is a Kim-Trump affair. I was honestly impressed when Trump said that he will gauge the situation in a few minutes and either walk out or sign the treaty. People have been objecting to that statement, but I don't. I myself have been very, very been effective when moving by my instinct and by my gut. That has always supported me. And all the achievers in the world achieve things by gut, not by planning is there, but the gut feeling is the most important. So Trump, if his gut tells him that the man is reliable, he'll go ahead. Now, getting a legal peace treaty in Singapore is not likely to be there. The reason is there are a lot of UN security issues, Security Council issues, they have to be looked after, and China has to be there. If, along with Moon, President Xi was traveling, then it was a sure shot. It's a fairly big process. So, what they can do is agree to a peace treaty and lay down a timetable for that, and North Korea would sign for that. But the actual peace treaty may be signed at a later time. Some people thinking, why have a peace treaty at all? What's wrong with the status quo? As a matter of fact, some of the froth makers, some of the people who want to make things hazy, they say that Trump should not be open to peace, to negotiations for focusing on peace deal. He should only ask North Korea to abandon the weapons. Now, that is an absolutely stupid approach. You cannot ask a man to lay down his weapons and then you are fully armed to kill him. And the experience of Iraq and Libya is too recent for any sensible man to be forgotten. And Kim, whatever the Westerns may say, is an extremely, extremely sensible man. There have been bloodshed even in these 68 years. So treaty might be symbolic, but it is required. Now, it's an agreement. Now, let's imagine the factors of peace treaty. What is a peace treaty? Peace treaty is an agreement between sovereign nations, and South Korea doesn't recognize North Korea as a sovereign nation. USA doesn't recognize North Korea as a sovereign nation. North Korea does not recognize South Korea as a sovereign nation. So constitution of both North and South Korea consider the other to be rebel. So how can you sign a peace treaty between somebody whom you do not recognize? You have to recognize to sign a peace treaty. So the first step would be that there will be mutual aid de memoire, that each country recognizes the other as a prelude to that treaty. So the legitimate government of North Korea signs with the legitimate government of South Korea, with USA and China thrown in. This means the push for South Treaty could require South Koreans to ask that their ambition to rule North Korea may be abandoned for quite a long time. But if Moon wants peace, he should be prepared for that. Now, let's be very clear. This meeting is a meeting of minds and brains. This is a meeting of two contrary personalities. This is a meeting of two systems of the governance and living. This is a meeting of compromise. This is not it's a meeting of contradictions coming together to make a composite whole. Legally, peace treaty may not be signed in form, but in principle it can be agreed to, because China would have no hesitation at all. And then, it is more like the Yalta Agreement that was agreed between Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt aboard USS Malta, where it was decided to fight a war, but president cannot wage a war in USA without the permission of Congress. So it was decided, in fact, but put in the form later on. The same would happen now if verifiable denuclearization, in a proper manner is agreed to by Kim, if the authenticity of Kim impresses Teflon coated Trump, if South Korea's ambition of having peace and China's desire to rule South Korea through North Korea at a later stage, they combine together, there is every possibility that the world may be amazed at the perspective, amazed at the capability of Trump to cross over hurdles which nobody has been able to do for the last 68 plus years. At the same time, it will show that the apprehensions of Kim were not far wrong. Every human being and every country has a desire and need to protect itself, and that's what he's doing. I don't blame him for going nuclear. When you're surrounded by the enemies and enemies as powerful as Japan and USA, you have to protect yourself. And then after having protected yourself, you go and have a talk. So the real politic is not what CNN and Washington Times and New York Times are talking about. They don't know the culture of East Asia. The Asian culture is absolutely different than the Western culture. We people in Asia have more emphasis on saving the face and looking after our own people. Westerns won't hesitate betraying their own face and even losing their face to win the eventual war. So here is a combining of the two different cultures into, and that is to metamorphose in a political deal. The exigencies of the situation are such that both parties have to do it. But as I said earlier, Trump is guided by instinct, absolute instinct and gut feeling. If his gut feeling tells him that Kim is reliable, you can be sure that he is going to embrace him and kiss him on the cheeks and say, all is forgotten, let's have a drink. He doesn't drink, he's a teetotaler. And they can have lemon water or coconut water in Singapore and agree to sign a deal after the small issues have been thrashed out by the experts in the field, by the diplomats and others. However, the presence of the Secretary of State is a positive factor because he is a man who has already met Kim and formed his opinion and is quite vocal and hung-ho about the deal. So the stars, as they say, are properly aligned. Let's see what happens, but I'm sure something good out of it. Thank you.